I bring it from having talked to dozens of potential sellers and helping them sort through, is this the right time to sell? And then also to try and figure out what's your motivation for selling, because that impacts not only will you have sellers remorse later, but also what kind of buyer do you really want to go with? Because there are strategic buyers, there are private equity firms, there are minority partners who may come in really interested more in just in bringing the capital and so forth. So understanding what flavor of buyer is best for a company is something I look forward to talking more about.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's easy for our industry or for those that are considering an M&A strategy. You think about EBITDA, right? And what is the multiple of EBITDA? But when in my role with Transplace and Uber Freight, I was very engaged in the early cycle of considering a roll-up. And one of my jobs was to go meet with the founders, to go meet with the executive team, because as important as the financials were and the opportunity for growth, we really wanted to understand the culture of the company, the morale of the company, and the management style. Because if those don't sync up between the buyer and seller, it's just a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately, we too many times we hear about the war stories, or we hear about those that are negative. I think Scott and I were very fortunate that we had a great experience. And for our company, our best people had the opportunity to grow at Transplace and to achieve career growth that they probably would have been limited to some degree had we not pursued that strategy. So those are the interesting things that I look forward to kind of sharing with other founders out there. One of the in sort of that same view, you've probably heard before that making an acquisition is like buying an iceberg, right? You can kind of see the industry conditions, you see the brand, you see the financial status, you can see the concentration of customers with a company, but it's really that what's under the surface, right? What is that culture? What is the turnover? What are some of the key risks with some of the risks with their key customers? And so those are great discussion points, and those are great, I think, topics that our attendees are looking for you and me to share those experiences.
Yes, and I would say, Sammy, the thoughtful potential seller ought to try and make sure that they hear about the good outcomes and the outcomes that weren't so good.
Sure.
Because it's nobody bats 1,000, and
right.
There are any particular buyer will have winners and losers, and among a big group of sellers, you'll find a lot of winners and losers. Mm-hmm. And so there's all kinds of lessons that I hope you don't have time to go through, like, what's your real objective, and therefore which kind of buyer will have the highest probability of meeting that for you. What are the things you don't like to do? So how do you avoid buyers where that's something you might have to do? And what's the right mix for you as a seller in terms of financial, legacy, taking care of people, providing opportunities for maybe children, things like that. And depending on how you weigh those different objectives, you'll reach a different conclusion about who's the best buyer.